Francis down, holding the right knee.
Yeah.
Geelong are going to get home in round 1 by 7 points. What a win for them. What a game.
And it's an avalanche now. The storm has come and hit the Giant Stadium.
Hello, I'm Damien Barrett and welcome back to Access All Areas for 2019. With me once again are my Access colleagues Matthew Lloyd and Jimmy Bartel. Hello, boys.
Thanks, Damo. Great to be back, Jimmy.
Yeah, it's finally footy's upon us. Round 1, upsets and ACLs really come out of it. Some interesting results and some unfortunate season-ending injuries.
There is, and we should get straight into it. The Giants dished out a 72-point thumping of the Dons. It was a horrible start by the Bombers, Lauder.
We can't just say it's round 1 and these things happen and they might bounce back. They may well, but this is a real worrying times for the Bombers. This isn't just 1 week. I'm looking at across the month. The JLT, they were poor against Carlton, lacked energy, lacked passion. Then against Geelong, really, really poor. Dyson Heppel comes out on the eve of round 1 and says, she's got to get some energy back. That raised alarm bells for me. They could not have played worse. And I don't care what tactics Ben Rutten or John Worsfold have. If you don't not have passion, care for each other, and hardness at the contest, you go nowhere. And I've got grave concerns for where they're at. If they don't come out breathing fire against St Kilda this week, there's cultural issues at Essendon because there's something wrong if you can't compete hard in round 1.
That's a massive call for you to say so early into a new season, Lord. You say it's been a month-long process. I'd actually argue it's even a year and a month because this happened last year. They blew up their season in the first 8 games of footy and made a couple of structural changes, got it okay again, but were never going to play finals from that moment onwards. Here they are again, 1 season down, in John Worsfold's 4th year as coach. Now, first year for him was an understandable write-off given the drug saga played out in that first year of his coach. But he's now into his 4th season, and right now, I don't know what that club stands for under his watch.
It's a great point. I think John Worsfold at 2-6, Jimmy, last year said, and it's the strongest thing I've been told he said to the players, what do we stand for as a football club at 2-6? They win 10 of their last 14, but I said a week ago, that means nothing if they don't start this season well, because I don't care if you fly home. What does it really mean? You've got to start well this year, and they've done it again.
Yeah, and spot on. And numbers point to that. They got all-time record under Worsfold at Essendon, got smashed in the contested possession, minus 41. That's an enormous number. But then on the outside, they got absolutely torched. You know, they gave up 92 uncontested marks. So, you know, that whole energy thing, round 1, that's where you're supposed to have your most energy. You've been training all year. It is a little bit different for all other games because you spend months preparing for 1 game, but you got beaten on the inside and the outside. So, really disappointing result for the Bombers.
And we're going to talk about these 2 teams soon. Brisbane and the Fremantle Dockers. 2 teams that want to go somewhere. And the passion, energy, pace that we saw, there was just none of that from Essendon on the weekend.
Yep. A couple of ex-Giants who played for the Bombers on the weekend. Devon Smith was a best and fairest winner at the Bombers last year. Dylan Shield playing his first game. They fumbled in a way that a first-year player would have fumbled against their old team.
Yeah, they got a little bit spooked. Devon Smith worked his way into the game. Obviously, he always will with that tackling pressure and goes hunting. But Dylan Shield, they just came after him. They attacked him every time he got the ball. They put that tackling pressure on. And like we said just before, Lloyd, the contested numbers, and it all comes off the back of this, and that's a real intent from the Giants. You look at it was off the back of, you know, Jacob Hopper, a young player, Tim Taranto, who's probably been parked in the forward pocket behind these 2 guys, waiting for them to move on. Really stood up.
And they may be targeted ever so slightly more on the back of what Devon Smith said about that stadium being a graveyard for Dylan Shield's return game. But it wasn't a graveyard for the Giants the way they moved the footy on that game.
I liked their pre-season. I was really bullish about them. I think, Jimmy, their practice form was pretty good. I know they got beaten by the Adelaide Crows, but they've lost some key players, but they've just got on with it. And there's opportunities now that are presented. I like Daniels, you know, as a new player who'll get a chance that probably wouldn't otherwise. Taranto gets more midfield time. He's a gun. Canelio, Kelly, they're top-end players really look on top of the ground.
Yeah, spot on. And no Kelly, no Ward, no Haynes. 3 who walked straight into that side. But it's probably 2 players who they missed a lot of last year. Zach Williams, he's back in that side. But I was really impressed yesterday with Zach Williams' actual defensive work. We know he can run and carry, but a couple of times they just left him 1 out inside the back 50. And that man who went to fly, Toby Green. Like, he's a 2-goal-a-game player. He makes them all walk taller, and he's just got that physical nature about him, Toby.
One last point, though, in this game. De Boer goes to Merritt, and De Boer just runs him into the ground, beats him. So it pretty much sums up the game. Essendon's best player didn't want to defend either, Zach Merritt, so he'd be embarrassed by the tape as well.
And from one side of the country, we go right across to the other side. The Dockers, who have had 3 really ordinary seasons and a really troubling past week and a half off field, really did a number on North Melbourne, particularly with Cam McCarthy firing.
Oh, they were fantastic. And I would have hated to have been a forward for the Fremantle Dockers for the last 4 years. I've felt sorry for them. But yesterday, it would have been a joy to be part of that forward line with the way they moved the ball.
Well, this footage absolutely nails it perfectly. The run from behind and the carry and the overlap, it opens up your forward 50. And Cam McCarthy gets space. We see Hill, who plays on the wing, running up and down the wing. And
this is not what we've seen from Fremantle under Ross Lyon. Do you think, guys, that this came as a result of the week they'd had with the Jesse Hogan situation, that it freed up the minds and bodies as much as anything? Or do you think actually deep down they were planning to play this way this year?
Well, that was the big unknown when you're trying to do your footy tips. Your clubs go one of 2 ways when they're under siege. They either bunker down and they produce a performance like this, or it goes pear-shaped. They absolutely turn the toes up.
And this man here too, McCarthy, it's quite possible he would not have played in this game had Jesse Hogan been available.
No, well, the opportunity that now the focus goes through him. Obviously, will he be the big dog on the forward line? We've got Rory Lobb across from GWS, who normally plays a second fiddle sort of role. Cam McCarthy likes to play the second fiddle. Will Jesse Hogan be the big dog, or is it Cam McCarthy?
I think they have great flexibility now, but again, I made a point. Unless you move the ball well, I don't care who they had down there, but now he can play, Cam McCarthy. It's just had to get his head right, and also you need the team to move the ball well. So he might kick his 40 this year off that performance yesterday.
Final siren sounded yesterday at Marvel Stadium, and the Saints were 1 point ahead of the Gold Coast Suns. It could have gone either way. Luke Dunstan, crucially late in the piece, did this against Sam Collins, which held the ball and locked the ball in onto that wing area when it was going back into the Suns forward 50.
He's a heart and soul player, Dunstan. I know he frustrates Saints fans with turning the footy over, but big tick for both of these teams. If the Suns can be in games for most weeks, that's a big tick for them. And it was huge for St Kilda, wasn't it? They just needed, just for their own confidence, a win like that.
Yeah, a few more experienced bodies around the club allows them to compete for longer. You've got the young players who can do their thing, but you just need some physical players around the ball. And that Luke Dunstan highlight, that'll be showed today if they're doing match review, and they'll keep going back to it throughout the year. That it's not normally the big flashy stuff that gets you over the line. So a big tick for the Saints there, just to grit out the win. But the Suns, at least it's an improvement and they're hanging in games.
Yeah, it was match saving from Luke Dunstan. It could have been match drawing had Peter Wright, 2-metre Peter, decided to kick toward goal and maybe miss when he got this free kick given. You can see the score, you can see the time. Time ticks down to within 2 minutes and he decides to centre the ball from the resultant free kick here. Jimmy, put yourself in his shoes. Would you have done the same thing or would you have had a ping?
Yeah, look, you can't blame him for doing this because you don't want it too deep close to the goal line, because now sides are worried about the new kicking rule being transition against, and you open up, I guess, the opportunity to give the ball back to the Saints, so they can stop the clock if they will, or go really fast. But we have hindsight, we can slow it down. That's probably one where you can have a bit each way and have a shot. At worst, it gets punched over the line, and then you get the point that way.
I'd just take the shot. I love taking shots.
You would have. You would have even waited a bit more time to soak it right up.
Given the fake, you're covered on the league sort of stuff. Full forwards.
Adelaide Crows, shocking season last year and imploded on so many fronts. I'm a buyer of them this year, even after what happened against Hawthorn in round 1. But they're going to have to improve because they were made to look very ordinary against the Hawks. Yeah,
I've been bullish on them, Damo, but it's the way they lost. Just some vision of the way they just didn't adjust to the conditions. Alistair Clarkson, we know he'd be a nightmare to come up and coach against, but they just bombed the ball continually inside forward 50, had no answer for it, but they didn't adjust. James Sicily had a picnic. Jarman Impey played a great game. There's some of the players, even young Jack Scrimshaw cut across in his first game for Hawthorn and just took marks, and there's Stratton as well. So that's the big question mark on Don Pike. If the original plan where they run, gun, move the ball, Hawthorn planned for that, stopped it, and there was no real answer to that.
Well, you're right, because Hawthorn had 19 tackles inside 50, so their forward line applied a stack of pressure, so it almost forced Adelaide, under that perceived pressure. Let's kick it in long, let's dump it, let's try and play the game in our half. But Hawthorn just read Adelaide's eyes really well, the cues, and just came off and kept picking them off.
Do you subscribe to what Lotto just said there about the no plan B component to the Crows under Don Pike?
Well, I think they tried to implement a plan B, but round 1, you go with your one wood, which is hitting Tom Lynch up. You come off the half-back line, you create plenty of run and carry, and you get the ball into your half. And they're very good at hitting up the lead, but they went away from it a little bit too early, but then they couldn't adjust back either.
Just quickly, Hawthorn, like what you see, premiership possibilities out of nowhere?
I don't believe they win a premiership, but I didn't have them in the 8.
Yeah.
And now you'd be thinking.
And you quickly, Jimmy?
They possibly could.
Look, they can definitely play finals. It's just the unknown with the injuries.
Yeah.
That was, I think, why a lot of people had the question mark whether they'll make the 8 or not.
Wingard to come back and Scully possibly as well. Max Gawn's become a big topic out of his past 2 games. A preliminary final last year where West Coast and Scott Lysette and Nathan Vardy did a number on him. Lysette, now playing for Port Adelaide, did the same thing to him. Look at the time in this game. This is him early in the game, off the ball, really getting into him. It was a theme throughout the day. It continued up right up until half-time.
So this goes on a lot, especially with sides that run with a ruckman who plays close to 90% of the time. We've seen it happen to Sam Jacobs over at the Crows, Todd Goldstein when he's playing in the ruck. You want to wear down the big dog, and Max Gawn is absolutely a dominant player. But it was from everyone from Port Adelaide. That was the impressive thing.
Poor effort this one, Jim. They got inside his head.
Yeah, definitely.
So did he shirk the moment there, Lotto?
He did, and he's admitted since the game they didn't handle the situation well. And Scott Lyce said in an interview after the game, and this is where I'd be, he's got to be better than this, Gawn. You can't have 2 kids laughing at you.
So freeze this, Lotto. What we're pointing out there, the 2 kids on the side.
Jack Butters and Connor Rosie were laughing in their first game at Max Gawn. So this was a team job that they did, and they had no fear of Max Gawn. Do you reckon Jonathan Brown is going to cop 2 kids laughing at them? Max Gawn didn't handle it well. Geelong have to go after Max Gawn again this week because he didn't handle it well at all and played poorly.
And should Melbourne play Prus as a result of what's now happened for the past 2 games against Gawn?
I don't think you have to do that. Max has just got to stand up. It'll keep happening until he beats it.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So it'll happen week in, week out.
Jack White played a really crucial role off half-back for the power team on the weekend. Off-season, did some wrong things, nothing illegal, nothing that anyone in life wouldn't have done some form of in the past. But you can just see how much emotion he carried over the off-season when he reflected upon the win.
I can sense the relief on you, mate.
Yeah, it is. It's just pure relief. I had weeks where I didn't want to get out of bed, mate, and probably never ever experienced anything like that. I'll cop more shit from people saying that I'm no good at footy for 1,000 years compared to what I've been through the last few months. So
take your time, mate. Take your time.
Now, Jimmy, you're a former guys. You might have been recruiting for the Brisbane Lions, and off-season, most recently, Link McCarthy, a former teammate of yours at Geelong, playing game number 30 only, despite starting in 2012 for the Brisbane Lions on the weekend. 4 goals, teamed up beautifully with Charlie Cameron.
Yeah, look, 7 years at the Cats. He just needed a change in environment and, I guess, different voices and how he could do his rehab. You speak to the people up there at Brisbane. First time he's done pre-season, he looks leaner and lighter, but he always had the talent and ability. Add him to Charlie Cameron, another great pickup from the year before, Jared Lyons, Lockie Neal. So what they've done really well, top end of the draft, but also mixed it with some players from other clubs who are still in their prime of their career.
Love what they've done because they couldn't hold on to players only years ago, and just to see McBerry and McCluggage and
Neil
Rayner and Neil coming, just jets all across the field, so they're growing beautifully.
Yep. Bulldogs, really good win against Sydney Swans on the Saturday night programming of round 1, and it was no coincidence that they won on the back of this absolute jet of a player, Marcus Bontempelli, returning to his 2015 and 16 best.
Yeah, he looks to be moving like classic Bontempelli. I know he doesn't want to reference the injuries, Lloydie, but he did look cumbersome last year because he had hip and everything else. But I sort of wrote down they're almost their old hashtag or marketing campaign slogan on the weekend: "Be more Bulldog." Now it's surprising they won a premiership in 2016. Playing hard, contested footy with lots of numbers around the contest and winning the clearances off the back of Libba, Wallace and Bontempelli. And
is it as simple as that for them? Be more Bulldog?
Well, that's how I watch it. It looked like just be who their DNA is, who you've been trained up to play, how they won a premiership, how they won big games, is being that hashtag, be more Bulldog. I know we laugh, but that's the style of football that won them the grand final.
And we'll just touch on Aaron Norton. He now allows Bontempelli to be a midfielder.
Yep.
Bontempelli's had to be forward, midfield. He probably couldn't get continuity. Now Norton could possibly allow him to be that 70% midfield, 30% forward.
It's sky the limit stuff with him, isn't it?
One of the best
could be
pack marks in the game.
Yeah,
it's just
at 19.
And his kicking looked better on the weekend as well.
Yeah, finished 4th in the best and fairest last year in a debut season. Geelong, in the middle, traditionally, historically, Ablett, Selwood and Dangerfield. What happened on the weekend? This is a transformation of this footy club.
What I think's happened is, I reckon Chris Scott has looked at how they can use Dangerfield and Selwood smarter. And instead of them being the battering ramps, he's got other players in there. So Dangerfield's got 17 centre bounces.
There's a debutant having nine inside moments compared with Ablett's 1.
And they love Parfitt. They love Tim Kelly, obviously, being a dominant player. And Selwood's 6, Ablett 1. We knew what the Ablett one. But the Selwood, has that surprised you at all?
It has a bit. They're trying to play him out a bit on the wing, half forward, half back. But I think the key with that one is big moments of the game on Friday night. There was Kelly, Constable and Parfitt doing the centre bounce. And I think that's been the big change. I think Chris Scott has allowed these guys time in the bounce. Obviously, Constable on debut. But he hasn't done it in the big moments. He's always rolled back to the big 3. But when the big moments came...
Can the egos deal with that, Lord, Jimmy? When I mean that, I mean everyone's got one and those guys have them. Can they deal with not being the main man?
I think they can. Joel Selwood, we know, is the ultimate team man. Same with Paddy Dangerfield. I think Gazza was the biggest adjustment because he's played 13 years in the centre bounce. So
played well,
pretty damn good. We know a couple of Brownlows. So probably the biggest adjustment for Gaz. But they're all good team people. And seeing the result on Friday night would have given them even greater faith in that system.
Yep. Magpies look really rusty, as they did in 2 JLT games. I'm looking at them a bit like Adelaide Crows. I'm prepared to forgive them what happened here, but they did not move the ball at all well, Lordo, did they, out of the back line?
Nathan Buckley made the point that the same problems they had in the JLT, they had here, and that's their movement off half-back. And this is what made them a poor side maybe 2 years ago. Their effort's great, but their lack of connection has been poor, and they got that right last year, but they've struggled a little bit early in the season.
I remember the start of last year when they lost, I think it was to the Hawks round 1 or round 2. It was the same thing. They had a lot of inside 50s, but just didn't convert them. And I think it was the second quarter. They went inside 50 18 times and only converted on 6%. So I think that's a bit of, they call it ring rust. I think they'll work that out with their midfield. They're too talented in midfield not to fix this up.
And Tom Phillips, he wouldn't like the review either with those 2 shots. Exactly the time you're saying. They had them, not on the ropes, but they were in a very good position here, Collingwood, with a lot of play. Straighten up. He's a beautiful left foot kick on the run, and this is the worst one. He takes the mark here. Go back, have your shot. Why put yourself under pressure to do this? So look at the score there, 10 points up in a tight game. So we could have gone 16 points up there.
Yeah, a bit rusty the Pies, weren't they? Something new to look out for this year. It's a new Facebook Live show that Nat Edwards and myself are doing every Wednesday, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time, lunchtime live with Damo. You can ask whatever question you like on any issue or topic, and we will tackle it. So that's every Wednesday on the AFL.com.au Facebook page, live at 12:30. So
you've demanded just with Damo. Why not with Damo and Nat?
We'll be with Damo and Nat from here on in. Yes. Any question you want? Any question you want? I've got a couple for you too in a few moments. Hollywood came to Marvel Stadium on Saturday night when Chris Hemsworth, Thor, moved in with Matt Damon. We raised this not to highlight those 2 Hollywood superstars, but more so for that man there who's gagging them. I'm in the Marvel Stadium box. Gillan McLaughlin, the AFL CEO, who...
Are you saying he's in there to sniff a bit of DP, is he?
He's in there doing all of that, the old liniment sniffing. Is he you're an Entourage fan. Is he the turtle in that crew?
He's a bit of the turtle. Surprised the mustard jacket didn't get rolled out for the occasion.
Very embarrassing behaviour there from Big Gil. Time for a new segment in this show, the Access Big Ask. It works this way. Short, sharp answers from you 2 gentlemen. And this one is to both of you. Can Richmond win the flag without Alex Rance? Yes or no?
Yes.
To Lloydie, will Josh Kelly and Stephen Coniglio be at the Giants next season?
Yes, I think they will be.
Jimmy, Geelong plays the Giants in round 4. Who are you round 4? Who are you barracking for? And we ask you because you're now working for the GWS team.
I'll be barracking for the Giants, but the Cats will always be in my heart.
There you go. Sitting on the fence as often is the case. Lloydie, your favourite new rule introduced so far?
I love the 6-6-6 and the kick in, but I don't think the coaches are doing enough to exploit those rules at the moment.
Jimmy, has Docklands or Marvel Stadium returned to its mantle of having the worst playing surface in the competition?
It always has been the worst. Spray painted grass, roof open when it shouldn't be, AstroTurf, players doing their knee on it, running into the fence and built the wrong way, and looking into the sun and broadcasting half in the sun, the shade. Does that tick the boxes?
You're not sitting on the fence on that one. This one's to both of you. Has any of you put a line through Essendon in winning the flag?
Ask a harder question, Damo. You mean make the 8?
No 8 even.
What's that?
No, 8.
That's the question.
I didn't know how strong you want to go off the top of the show on the Bombers.
That is the big question you'd be asking about. Can they play finals?
So no?
I'd say no at the moment.
I'd say no too.
I haven't put a line through them.
Yep.
No, I haven't, no. So I think they still can.
Yep. And Jimmy?
Oh, for you, Damo, sorry, I better ask a question. Your confidence level on the Snicko?
I don't have any great confidence in it. We didn't see it on the weekend, but I just worried about it delaying the game even more than normal. Jimmy, we've got to know you well over your time in footy. You're a weird unit, you're a bit strange, and you look for footage that no one else notices at the time. Your former teammate Harry Taylor copped this knock on the weekend when Dane Beams put an elbow there. Take us through it.
Well, Harold got bumped in the eye. This is a guy who wears zinc at night time often, a cap when he's playing. So, classic Harold Taylor there, just off with the fairies.
Thank you, boys. And thank you for joining us on Access All Areas. It's good to be back. Have a good week. We'll catch you next Monday. Goodbye.